So, Beth, do you want to
At least
take
it's
over the
TypeScript, so
screen?
we have types, so we'll be fine.
It's
Yeah,
all happening.
right.
We'll see if I can get everything right in one setting.
No
Yeah.
pressure.
Let me go to my terminal. Here it is. So what I did while Jeremy is showing you guys how to create a AED app inside of Azure Portal or using his amazing PowerShell skills. This is a command that I typed in and created a React app so that we can save some time, live. So the app is created. It's called Build Demo. So now if I see what's in the folder and I get into Build Demo, and then open up my project, I'm gonna make this huge.
Make it big.
I'm blind.
then-
I have my glasses on today.
Can you guys see?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So in my Visual Studio Code, here's the React app that's just scaffolded. It's too early in the morning. I feel like I keep missing the word that I'm trying to find. English is hard, man. It is. So what I'm gonna do first is how do you handle auth in a React app that you wanted to connect to the graph, right? So I'm gonna pull up my console right here. Hide this part, and then I'm gonna say npm install Microsoft.com, Microsoft slash
That's where the
MGT.
muscle memory comes from. Yeah.
You're gonna see a lot of those.
Yep.
So what I'm doing right now is installing the Microsoft Graph Toolkit into my amazing app because, Nicola could probably tell you how amazing MGT is and how many browsers it supports and why you should use it while I'm keep writing my code in this.
I love that segue.
I
yes.
see what you did there,
I can
Beth.
definitely do
That was
that.
really impressive.
I was like, I need like two separate brains to code and talk at the same time. Someone else to talk
I
about
can do
it.
that. Yeah.
Oh, and Daryl's saying that Microsoft Graph doesn't require PowerShell 7. It just works faster and more reliably in PowerShell 7. Okay, so when Daryl nagged me when I was in the other one, it's just because he wants to nag me. It's not necessarily true, okay? Thanks, Daryl. Sorry for interrupting, Nicola.
No, that's good. Hi there. I didn't know he was there. That's awesome. So Microsoft Graph Toolkit. So for those that are not aware of the Microsoft Graph Toolkit, this is a project that got started about a year ago, but it's a set of web components and helpers to make it really easy to kind of do some of these patterns for using the Microsoft Graph in your applications. So what Beth's doing right now, she's using one of our providers, specifically the MCell provider, which uses MCell.js under the hood to add authentication to the application. So that way the user can really easily sign in. So right now, after adding the provider, she just needs to provide the client ID here, and then I think she's going to add a couple scopes in there as well. Right?
Jeremy just sent me this awesome client ID that he created from PowerShell. And then, so to initiate an MSL provider, you need a couple things. And if you added MGT as part of your dependencies, and then I'm going to click control dot. Nope. Control space. Nope.
If you just need to do comma. Yep. There. See, coding is hard.
It's just early. So now you can see all the options that I can add in here. One of the things that you needed to add, maybe not up front, but as you're coding out your application, is the graph scopes that we were just talking about.
Yeah.
So I am not going to go grab all of them, but I'm actually going to do this.
Yeah. The good thing about the using the MCell library and the V2 endpoint on AAD is you can actually add the scopes ad hoc, so you can do incremental consent. So you can add these scopes now, and then later on, you can see here these scopes don't include group.read.all, and that's because we don't need group.read.all right now. We'll need it later when we actually create the teams. But for right now, just to kind of show the agenda and show what the people that are in those meetings, we just need these permissions. And incremental consent allows us to add permissions later and then ask the user to consent to those specific permissions later.
Actually, before I'm moving on to adding anything else in the UI, I just want to show you guys that this is a boilerplate project by running npm start, so that we can see the fancy rotating React sign in the browser in a second.
Fancy.
let me. It's right here.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're using React here just because, well, we can, but we don't have to use React.
Because
I think,
we can.
yeah, because we can. But the Graph Toolkit works with all of the different frameworks. Actually, works with vanilla JavaScript and whatever you want to work with. It doesn't really matter what framework you use.
Ah, there it is.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to go back and actually starting to add some stuff from the toolkit to the UI so that we can handle authentication super easy. If you're familiar with like how React works, it just starts with rendering some component, and right now it only has the app component, like the main component in it. So I'm going to go to that file, try and delete everything. Now the rotator is going to be gone.
Oh, no. It was so beautiful, though.
No more.
I'm going to make an app that only has that rotating icon.
So we build the Graph Toolkit using web component. And then if you're familiar with just vanilla, JavaScript, HTML, CSS, when you're creating custom components in web components, this is the way that you use it in your HTML. Yep. It'll just be mgt-login.
Right. The login component just uses the provider to authenticate the user. So it has the sign in button and then allows you to sign in and sign out.
Right. So why is it showing me a red squiggly? Oh, it's because the React project doesn't really.
It's because we're using TypeScript. Yeah. So TypeScript does require everything to be strongly typed, or as much as it can. So it doesn't actually know what it is. So you have to actually tell it what MGT agenda is, so MGT login is.
So I am going here to our toolkit docs. And then what I'm going to do is go to get started. Here's all the information that you would need to get started with your project. There's actually a section specifically for React. Let me find it. Here it is. So this is how you would find it to make sure that your TSX recognize what you're doing.
If you're using just regular JavaScript and no TypeScript, this is actually not required at all. This is just for TypeScript so it doesn't complain.
Awesome. Yeah, TypeScript is one of those. Now my app is still running. I'm going to go back to localhost. Here you go. Yay, look at the sign in button.
Sign in button. It's so beautiful.
It's very big.
How many lines of code have I written?
We can count it. So I think it was like 3 lines for the provider and 1 line for this. And if we don't count the definitions for the type.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Oh, the reply URL.
I think it's because the reply URL, you didn't add it to your AAD portal.
Yeah. What are you using?
You're using localhost?
Oh, yeah.
In
3000, localhost 3000. Yeah.
So Jeremy's going to edit in the background while I'm doing this?
Yeah.
Is that what back?
Yeah.
Can we go back? Yeah.
While he's doing that,
what
am I
this
is going to happen.
I think it's localhost 3000, no?
No, it's on there, yeah. That's what I have on there.
Huh. Well, maybe I can give you another different client ID that works.
Yeah, I have a client ID handy.
You don't trust my web application.
Just
no,
in
we
case
don't.
This happens.
Oh, yeah, you left us.
You left us C.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I changed the cursor to be huge this morning, and then now I can't use it.
Well, what you need to spend a week using your machine like this with everything big, and then it'll be perfect.
There it is.
There it is.
That should have been your prep.
So since I'm already signed into my browser and have a profile set up, so my profile will show up here with the MS Graph demo tenant already. If you hover over or click on it, you will see a profile picture, name, my fake email address. Don't email me there. I won't see it.
Well, they can. I mean, people
they can. It just will go into the void. Yeah.
Go into the dark web.
Yeah.
And I can sign out if I wanted to. So there it is. There's a login component in like 2 lines, 3 lines, 4 lines of code. All right, now I'm gonna go.
Yay!
Now I'm gonna go back and try to add another component. What was the other important thing that we wanted to add?
When we showed the app this morning, we had a list of events. So the best one here is agenda, right? The agenda shows you the list of your events that you have coming up. Yeah, you need to add it to your. Yep, exactly. So yeah, so we have I think 6 or 7, 8 different components now that do different things. We should probably show those later, where the people can kind of learn about those components.
Yeah, of course. So now that I've added a MGT agenda component, I'm gonna go back, sign into my account
Yeah, you
because
sign
I
in.
just tried to sign out.
It's okay. Okay, sign in.
Yay!
All that secret passwords.
Super
It's
secret.
definitely not password hashtag.
No.
Look at that.
It is. So yeah, so 2 lines of code and you have an agenda.
This is awesome. So it shows like everything on my calendar. And I remember there are a couple things that I could do with the agenda component, right? Like if you go back to our documentation, go to component and agenda,
Yeah.
scrolling down.
And all the
Here
properties.
is,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay,
here's
so
all the
we have
attributes and
some
properties.
questions, Nicola, from Debugger
Yeah.
with 3s, which is kind of cool as a Twitch name, and Paul Schaefline, who's my co-host on the podcast, shameless plug for the podcast, M365 Dev Podcast. Are there or will there be type declarations .d.ts for MGT, which I think is the same question as what Debugger was asking.
So that's a great question.
Typings.
Actually, if you hold on for I think 5 more minutes, we'll share something that I think will make you happy for React developers. But yes, the toolkit already actually has all the type definitions. We just don't have them for React, but we do have another thing for React that's going to cover in a few minutes.
Yeah.
Should we go to the playground and show people what are the other components first?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
totally.
let's do that.
So this playground is freaking amazing.
It got
I try.
coverage in the keynote, in Rajesh's keynote yesterday. I think
And this
Right?
is Beth's baby, right?
Oh my
I
God.
think,
we had to let Beth take a breath because we were actually, it was pretty cool. We had a viewing party with the 3 of us, and we watched it, and she's like, "Oh my god, it's the MGT Dev," which was cute. I should have filmed it. I really should have recorded it. It would have been fun.
It was a surprise. I didn't know it was gonna be in there.
It was good.
That's how you
Yes.
know you made it, right?
Ian has got you.
Anyways, it's teamwork. So many people has put in effort towards this. It's not just me anymore. That was how I got hired to this team. Is if anybody is interested.
So humble.
This is my screen self. I gotta watch it. Anyways, let's see all the other components that we have for the toolkit. If you've been following us, then you've probably seen them. If this is new, then I can give you an overview of all the components. So agenda you've already seen is just a list of calendar items. Login shows you your login button. Megan is our default user here, so we enable you to play around with the data and HTML and JavaScript without having your own dev tenant in the playground. So that was one of the biggest perks that people have. And you can also write your own code to manipulate the data here as you go. People is a list of people in your organization that closely work with you. MGT People Picker is something that you can choose people from your organization or you work with from this fancy UI. MGT person shows you similar profile, some information about the person, and if you hover over or click it, there are different configurations that you can do to show a person card, which I'm going to show you next. That gives you a little bit more additional information on how to contact these people, and you can also edit your own template into adding additional information. MGT tasks is just to-do list. Where you can create, delete, or modify. Go ahead.
That's kind of cool because in Microsoft 365 we have this notion of planner, which is more around groups working with tasks, and Microsoft To Do, which is kind of personal tasks. And that component actually you can flip between the two, which is kind of cool. So, and with the announcements around the To Do API. It's not shipped yet, right? We're about to ship it with the To Do API support. Right now it's using the Outlook Tasks API under the covers, right? Yeah.
Yep, that's right.
There is a whole movement with the beta API for To Do APIs. We will be not evolving Outlook Tasks out of beta. And so the To Do APIs will be there. So these are really cool for like immediately able to, in a snap, have To Do tasks directly into your application.
For sure. The last one and the newest one is the Teams channel picker where you can, this will connect with your teams and you can pick a team and a channel that you're in and then complete your workflow from there on. But we also started to help people build out dark themes. I think this is super cool, where you can be like, hey, here's the custom CSS that we already prepared for you that this kind of falls into align with Fluent UI. After, what was the other thing that yesterday that was announced? I keep trying to think that I'm saying the wrong thing. Fluent UI, right?
Fluid framework and Fluent UI. Fluent UI is the rename of Office UI Fabric. Fluid framework is something that's new, which is all about multi-core freeing and building web components that scale like crazy.
There you go. This is why we have you on the show, Jeremy. All the fancy recaps from yesterday too. No.
Thank you for your contributions.
Hey, I was watching episodes in the bath last night. It was great.
I thought that was
Remember
what
how we
Nicola
talked
was
about too much information?
Oversharing. Okay, quick focus.
Sorry, the last component is called MGT Get because we've gotten feedback from customers and partners saying, what if I don't want to tie the component tightly into one of the Graph APIs? So here's how you can do it. You just pass in a resource URL, which is endpoint from Graph. Give it a version and then tell the Get component your scope. And then here is just template that you can do where we're going to show you in just like 2 seconds. And then all these other fancy samples that comes with all the components that you can find in the playground as well. Coming back to the React app.
So that get web component's awesome because that's kind of like Pandora's box. You can essentially do what you want there in terms of graph calls and just render whatever the results come back as, right?
Yeah,
and a good time to call out, we also have a blog series, and there's a bunch of folks that are already in the chat that wrote a bunch of blog posts on how to use the get component, how to use all the different components. Let me see if I can find it and share it.
I'll find it.
Chat.
You guys focus on that. I'll do it.
Okay. Thank you.
We're on the super time.
I should have you be in all my meetings and share all the links.
You want me to be your receptionist?
Yeah, you said that. I didn't say that.
So, coming back to the question, people were asking, how can we, map all the templates and events and actions that Web Components has just naturally to React version of, wrapping it. Good news for you, we actually have a new package that we built. Actually, Nicola was the one who pioneered it.
Hey, you said teamwork. I'm going to go with that, too.
So I pioneered it, guys. No, it was totally Nicola. What we're going to do is add that package in here real quick. npm install /mgt-react.
Yay. So this is just auto-generated React wrappers for the web components. So now you don't have to do any of this type stuff, and it just works.
Because when we were first trying to use, it's not populated yet. There it is.
Yeah, there it is.
When we were trying to use web components within the React project, the biggest thing was, what if I just want to come here and do something like on click? For example, MGT agenda has event that says event click. And I just want to do event click equals, whatever event that I wanted to pass in there. But no, you can't do that. What you have to do is refer to the reference API and then give it all this fancy code about creating your own, the, what's it called? Create ref? No, my ref?
Yeah, I think it's create ref, I think, in functional components. Yeah.
It was const my agenda. And then you have to do like create ref.
It's a lot of code.
And then you have to pass in like the type of HTML, attributes, all of these things. So what if I don't know how to write those? I actually have, let me just copy this real quick. We tried to type it out. We actually tried to type it out the other day, but the thing is we really don't have enough time. So instead, I'm just going to do this. So, actually, I'm going to copy. Huh?
No, I think this is the wrong thing you copied. Yeah. So this one. Yeah, this is the one.
Let me do, was it this one? No, it was this one.
There, okay.
So what you're going to have to do.
So Debugger was saying, but these are only wrappers for React, correct? What if I use TypeScript without a framework? That's correct.
And then you can just use the web components as is. So you don't need anything. They just work because they're native components. So they just run in the browser. I think the wrapper, which we haven't shown you actually yet, the wrapper just makes it really easy for React developers. But it's auto-generated, so we can probably create wrappers for other frameworks if there's interest to kind of make it easier. But React is actually the only one popular framework that actually doesn't make it really easy to use web components. You can still use them, but you just have to do some kind of workarounds. I think all the other frameworks actually do support web components pretty well.
So here's the code that you would essentially have to write if you wanted to wrap a web component in your React app. I'm going to do my agenda.current so that I won't complain anymore. So
Louise was asking, why are we using React here then?
So, I mean, I made that choice. It was a choice that I made because actually, I'll be honest why I chose React, because this was my chance to learn React. I actually never used React before that in a real sample or project. I wanted to learn it, and also gave me a chance to use Fluent UI, which has a lot of Fluent components. So that way I can kind of leverage that to kind of build out my UI. And if you look at the sample, we're using a ton of Fluent UI components there to kind of make it look and feel like a good M365 app.
And kind of follow like what Microsoft's overall direction with using React in a lot of the projects that they have as well. We just wanted to show you outside of web components, here's how you would use our component within a React project as well. And to make it easy, I'm going to show you how to make it easy real quick. So now that I've added a wrapper, what I can do is just import a login component right here. Now I don't need any of this code. So all I need to do is
it's capital L, yeah.
Is add the login component right here. Now I don't need this either. So going back to what our sample used to have, if I just have agenda here as well, this will show exactly what I showed you just now in localhost right here.
Yep.
Right. So now I don't need to use this to create or attach an event listener into this component anymore. All I need to do is check out the documentation, and I know the fact that the event is called event click, so I'm going to say event click.
Let's check that out. You also have Intellisense now.
I know, right?
So you can actually look at it. Yeah. So if you can look at all the properties and all the events through Intellisense directly in your React project.
So right here, this is what I used to using web components. This is what I used to using just HTML, and voila, it works. And if I come
really
here,
cool.
open up my console.
I want to stop you because I know you guys worked really hard on this, but Debugger said that he loves these web components. Last year, he instantly tried it when he arrived in the hotel after the conference.
Oh, that's awesome. That warms my heart. Thank you.
Yeah, you see. It's cool. I mean, it's so easy to demo like this too, but this is like, I love the fact that this one is going to build out something that you could genuinely go use with your, customers, employees right now, which is cool. It's exciting.
So now I'm just going to remove all of this code.
And then Big Pix 2000 was like, wait, we did all that, and then you delete all the code, and now it's 2 lines of code. Yeah, I guess we're making your lives way easier and cleaner, right?
It's kind of like a bait and switch. Look at all this code you have to write, but wait, you don't have to write this code.
Very car salesman-y.
So now it's going to be super easy for you to create your own templating within the agenda component. If you're familiar with how to use functional components, I'm just going to do this real quick. Hopefully I can be done typing in a little bit.
So yeah, while you type, I can actually explain some of the things. So templating is actually a way for developers to kind of overwrite the UI for these components. So for example, the agenda provides overrides for the events, provides for the headers, all kinds of different template overrides. and you can say, hey, instead of your default UI, here is a different UI I want you to render for each event. And that's what we're doing here. And this React wrappers actually make it super easy. Instead of having to use the templating support that comes in the toolkit by default, you can use the React way of building components and kind of use those as your templates. So you can see here, Beth is creating a new component called Agenda View, and she's going to pass that component to the Agenda component to be used for rendering every single event.
So now I'm going to need some sort of a prop.
Yep. So I think they're called MGT template props.
MGT.
Yeah. Template props. Yeah, that's right.
There you go.
So you use the MGT props, and then you use template equals, and then that's how you know what template to overwrite.
And if you're paying attention to when we're clicking on it, expanding the data that came out of it, you would see that event here. Or if you go to the documentation, you can also see like all the templates that's available here, including right here is the event that you can use as well. So what I'm going to do is props. Actually, I'm going to define it here. Was it people? Data context.
Yeah, so the data context is actually what gets passed down to this component now from the agenda. So that's how you know which event to render. Because when the agenda is going to take that agenda view and it's going to make copies of it for every event, and it's going to pass that data context down to it, so you as a developer can take it and do whatever you need to do with it.
So here I can use event.subject. You know what would be nice? Intellisense.
So while Beth's doing that, D-Trouble said, I'm a bit afraid to ask what the final chunk JS size if your components are so universal.
You know what? That's the beauty of it, because these components are web components and they're rendered natively by the browser. We don't have to specifically code them for a specific framework. We just code them for the browser, and they just run. So it doesn't matter what framework you use. So they're just built once. The wrapper that we built for React is actually just a typed file. It's I think the code that it ships, it's minimal, maybe like less than a kilobyte for just the React part of it. So now, hopefully, yay! Look at that. I have Intellisense. Yay! Yeah. So this would be something like attendees.map. Attendee. So here you're using the people component, which is just a list of people. Address. And you're passing a list of email addresses to go query the graph and kind of display their images and their information. Just so that React would get off my back. And Baywhite says, don't forget about tree shaking, removing a lot of things you're not using, which is absolutely correct. So if you're not using parts of it, if you're using a single component, tree shaking will take care of that for you. Okay. This is the same problem that we had the other day, isn't it? I think so. Yeah, I think because we have strict mode enabled in TypeScript, you might have to write a bit more code. You can try to remove strict mode for now. Yeah.
Well, it is only a demo.
There it is. There it is.
Solved it.
Done.
So now if I come back here, it's giving me an error for some reason. Yeah, I'm guessing it's, again, that strict mode because it keeps getting reset. It was getting reset last time. Anyways, this is how you would use people query or... So maybe you can just show just rendering the subject without the people in it. Just remove the people stuff, yeah. For now, yeah. Let's do that real quick. Go back. Did I start it? It looks started, yeah, if you go up. Oh, you didn't put the template in there. In line I didn't put it in 13, there. You're right. So you need to just make sure template equals event. Right. So this way, this tells it I want to retemplate every event. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, look at that. All the subjects are showing up. Yeah.
So you can totally override the default rendering if you don't like what is there with the web component out of the box. Yeah.
Oh my god, I can't believe I'm on time.
He said you need to restart the server when you change the configuration of the...
Oh, that's probably what it is.
TS config.
I thought I did. But anyways, so that's how you do it. Right here. Maybe we'll try that some other time.
For using a Mac, Beth. those days are gone where you'd walk into a meeting here and a certain CEO at the time could allegedly bring out a sledgehammer and smash your iPhone. Just rumors. I never met anyone in person who had that experience, but yeah, as soon as Satya got here and we shipped Office on the iPad, and those days are gone. I believe our new PM in our team, Glenn Block, who just joined us actually, that's really glad he's on the team because he's done a lot of cool stuff over in .NET World. He just ordered a Mac as his standard issue computer too, so
That's
we'll see
awesome.
how he goes, yeah.
Anyways, we've showed you a couple things that you can go try out today if you want to. One is MGT. That was the most basic thing. That we showed you how easy it is to add, 3-4 lines of code to enable a login component, and instead of going through all the auth flow and write your own auth code. And then another thing is the React wrapper for MGT for React apps. If you want to go try it out and let us know what you think and give us feedback, because this is early on for the project, we would love to hear more about that. And then we showed you how to use Microsoft Graph types to keep your components in check, and then get the fancy Intellisense that you needed to make your development easier. So that's
Cool.
my part.
Sweet, thank you.
Made it.
Made
Yes.
it. Phew.